The one question that gave me the most anxiety when I started looking at real estate was how much was everything going to cost? How much money do I need to save up in order to buy the building? Once I have the building, how much money do I need to set aside for expenses? Well, in this video, I got you covered. I'm going to show you all the main costs as well as some of the hidden costs to look out for when owning multifamily homes. Stay tuned. What's going on, guys? This is Rob Bailey with American Realty Network, your realtor for the Chicagoland area. And in this video, I'm going to show you all the costs as well as the hidden costs of buying multifamily homes and managing multifamily homes. Also, you know what time it is. Please like and subscribe if you want more real estate content on buying and selling properties in Chicago. Before I got my first multi-unit property, all I did was spend countless hours researching how much money I needed to save up, not only to buy the building, but I also researched what my monthly expenses were going to be in order to maintain the building. Even after all that research, once I finally got my first multifamily property, I found out that I still grossly underestimated my monthly expenses. I mean, why do I have to pay the water bill? I'm not staying it. I'm not using that water. I can just put that on my tenants, right? Wrong. So, based on not only my own personal experience with managing buildings, but the experiences of other clients that I work with as a real estate agent, I plan on showing you some of the, not only the regular costs, but the hidden costs of buying and managing multifamily properties. Now, let's start with the costs associated with buying a multifamily property. The main cost is going to be your down payment. The down payment is a percentage of the purchase price that you have to pay to the bank in order to close on the building, which basically means in order to buy the building. The percentage that you have to pay depends on the type of loan you have. For example, if you have the FHA loan, which helps out first-time home buyers, you only have to put down 3.5% of the purchase price. If you have a conventional loan, however, you'll be at anywhere between 5 to 20%. All this depends on the lender you have and what type of deals they can offer you. If you need a free list of lenders, feel free to reach out with me through the comments or on my website, and I'll be happy to give you a list of people that I've personally worked with in the past that I know do good work. Now, let's get into some of the hidden costs that many people don't talk about but are definitely worth noting. The first is going to be the closing fees. Closing fees are the fees that banks or lenders charge to do what they need to do behind the scenes in order to get the loan to go through. Now, closing fees can average anywhere between 3 to 4%, but that all depends on the lender. So, for example, if you're buying a $200,000 multifamily property, then not only will you need to save up 3.5% for the down payment, which is $7,000, you'll also need to save an extra 3%, which is $6,000 for the closing fees. So that means in order to actually buy the home, you need to bring 13 grand to the closing table. Now, if that $13,000 number doesn't scare you, then congratulations. You've been doing what you need to do to save money, and you're well prepared and well on your way to buying your first multifamily property. However, if you're like me, where that $13,000 number scared the crap out of them, then don't worry. I have a secret tip for you that may be able to cover some, if not all, of those closing cost fees. Stick with me to the end and I'll let you know. The next cost that you need to look out for is the inspection fee. Now, even though it's not required in the state of Illinois, it's definitely recommended that you hire a professional inspector to look at any property that you're thinking about buying. Inspectors are very good at finding things that you wouldn't even have thought about looking at. For example, did you make sure to check that the toilet isn't loose and water isn't leaking and destroying the floor below it? Is that crack in your basement wall nothing, or is it a sign that the entire foundation of the home is crumbling? Did you check the attic to make sure that the roof isn't leaking? Now, the cost of the inspection normally varies on the size of the building, but I've seen them average anywhere between $350 up to $500, so make sure you have enough money saved aside for that as well. The last fee that you need to look out for is the appraisal fee. Anytime you get a loan to buy a home, the bank or the lender is going to send an appraiser out to take a look at the property to make sure that the money is worth the money that they are loaning out to you. The appraisal fee is normally somewhere around $400, so make sure you have enough money saved up for that as well, because there's no getting around it. Remember that tip I told you about that would help with the closing costs? Well, I might as well give it to you now. Here it is. Ask the seller to pay for the closing costs. Most lenders will allow sellers to give up to a 6% closing cost credit, so that should help with most, if not all, of your closing costs. Alright, now that we've talked about some of the costs associated with buying multifamily properties, let's talk about the costs associated with maintaining the multi-unit properties once you own it and you have it in your name. The first expenses I'd like to talk about are what I like to call maintenance expenses. Now, maintenance expenses are things that you have to do to keep your property looking good and keep it up and running. Such maintenance expenses can include lawn care, snow removal, things like that. Now, if you're living at the property, chances are you're going to want to just buy a lawnmower and take care of it yourself, which is fine. That's what I do for the property that I live in. For properties that you don't live in, however, there's no way that you're going to be going back and forth, cutting their grass or shoveling their driveway anytime, you need to. So chances are you're going to want to hire somebody to do that work when you don't live at the property. For the cost, I'm usually able to find somebody to cut the grass every 2 weeks for $30 a trip. And as for the snow, I'm usually able to find somebody who can shovel for $20 every time it snows. Next, let's talk about your water or sewer bill, or whatever your county or city calls it. Now, I know that you want to find a way to put this on the tenants, but let's face it, for every building, you as the landlord are responsible for that water bill. So for me, for my building in Chicago, that bill normally ranges around $600, and I have to pay that twice a year. So if you split that up into a monthly fee, it's $100. So that's something that you need to set some money aside and prepare for, because in 6 months, that bill is going to come up and smack you right in the face. I know it has for me many times. And if you think you can hold off on paying that bill, try living in a building that doesn't have water. Not fun. Now, let's talk about some of the minor repairs that you're inevitably going to have to deal with, which always seem to pop up at the most random and inopportune times. As far as repairs, the most common one that I deal with are minor plumbing repairs. Now, with minor plumbing repairs, I mean things like unclogging a sink or fixing a leaky drain pipe underneath the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink, or something to do with the toilet. For these minor repairs, I found out the hard way when I first started out that sending a plumber out there every time something like that happens can get very expensive very fast. I've had one licensed plumber tell me that he won't even get out of the bed if the job isn't more than $200, so think about that. So to take care of these, I have two solutions for you. The first solution would be to find a handyman or somebody who knows their way around the sink who will fix it for a good cheap price. My second solution, which is the one I personally use, was to learn how to fix all of that stuff yourself. You'd be surprised how much you can learn on YouTube. I mean, you're already on YouTube anyway, so why not, right? Most of the repairs that you run into are fairly common, so chances are somebody made a YouTube video on the thing that you need to fix. I can't tell you how much money I've saved by simply learning how to do some of these simple repairs on my own. I can't tell you how much money I've saved simply by watching YouTube videos and learning how to do some of these simple repairs on my own. When I started out, I didn't know how to fix anything. Now I can change faucets, fix leaky drain pipes, change electrical outlets, change lighting fixtures, you name it. The next common repair that I have to deal with are appliance repairs. So for instance, maybe the refrigerator starts leaking water, or the oven in the stove stops working, or the dryer stops heating. All of which has happened to me in the past year for some reason. For these repairs, if it's anything that involves me taking apart the appliance, I usually just leave it alone and let a professional deal with it. I would suggest that you find a repair specialist, which is usually somebody who deals with a used appliance resale store, and they'll be able to come out and fix the appliances for you pretty cheaply. For instance, the dryer that I mentioned that stopped heating, I had someone come out for me and fix it for $100. Now that's a lot cheaper than going to the store and buying a brand new dryer, which can easily cost $500 if not more. Last but not least, we have the major repairs. Now I used to lose sleep over this all the time when I first started out in real estate. I used to wonder what would happen if the roof collapses all of a sudden, or what would happen if there's a fire in the property. Well, don't worry, because I have the simple solution for you. Insurance. At the end of the day, all you can do is save up enough money to make sure you can cover your insurance deductible, which for mine is $500, but they can vary depending on the insurance plan that you have. For example, let me tell you what happened at one of my properties. So I remember at 9 o'clock at night, I get a text from my tenant telling me that apparently somebody stole a minivan, crashed it through the fence, and just left it in the backyard of the property and ran away. Now it was a pretty large fence, and this minivan completely destroyed it, so I needed to get the whole thing rebuilt. When I got the repair estimates for it, it came out to about $4,500. Ouch. The good news is that I had insurance, so all I did was call up my insurance company, file the claim, pay my $500 deductible, and they gave me the money to repair the fence. I wonder if they ever caught that guy who ran into the fence though. Never know what happened with that. Alright, so now for the cost. Since you can't predict these things, how much money do you need to reasonably save up in order to be prepared for when these repairs items just come up out of nowhere? Well, the general rule of thumb among investors is that you should save 1% of your purchase price yearly in order to be prepared for these maintenance costs. Well, since these repairs are so unpredictable, how much money should you save up in order to be prepared for when these items just pop up out of nowhere? Well, the general rule of thumb among investors is that you should save 1% of the purchase price, or 1% of whatever your home is worth, in order to be prepared for these repairs. So sticking with the example of a $200,000 multifamily building, if you save 1% of that yearly, it's going to come out to $2,000. And if you divide that by 12 months, you come out with a monthly fee of roughly $168. Now, you may be thinking, that's kind of a lot of money to save up to the side, but you have to remember that these repairs aren't going to pop up every single month. You're going to have a few good months where you don't have to worry about anything at all. Just remember that when you have those months, make sure you're setting that money to the side for when repairs do happen in the future, which, trust me, they're going to happen. Alright guys, so those are my hidden costs and expenses to look out for when buying a property and when maintaining your property. So any questions, always feel free to reach out to me in the comments or in my website. Also, if you want more content like this, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot guys. Have a good day.